Last year, 47 nonprofit organizations wrote an open letter to the media. The letter warned them against a discredited left-wing political activist organization that seeks to silence its political opponents with a hate group label of its own invention and application that is not only false and defamatory, but that also endangers the lives of those targeted with it. They, of course, were talking about the Southern Poverty Law Center, who promotes the shutting down of so-called hate speech. This far-left hate group, the SPLC, is funded by banking giants such as JP Morgan and the Bank of America, as well as big pharma like Pfizer. The SPLC collects $50 million each year, with $4.4 million being sent off to offshore accounts. And it's not just conservatives, Christians, and libertarians who the SPLC is going after, although they do focus a large amount of their work going after our kind. But no, even Muslim reformers like Majid Nawaz have been the target of the SPLC. It seems that since Islam is a religion of peace, there's no need for Muslims to talk about Reformation or an Enlightenment era similar to what the West went through. But no, for a Muslim to talk about how Islamic countries in the Middle East should secularize their constitutions and their human rights, for a Muslim to even think, let alone say out loud, that Islamic countries should base their legal systems on basic laws we can all agree on, you know, things like don't steal, cheat, murder, treat women with respect. No. That's hate speech. The SPLC even admits that their definition of a hate group is based on opinion and it's strictly ideological factors. This group pushes its leftist content everywhere it possibly can. From the elementary schools where the kids are taught that biology is a social construct and gender is on a spectrum, and anyone who disagrees with LGBT pride or gender identity is hateful, to entire communities that they label on their so-called hate map. Their so-called hate map, by the way, has been discredited thoroughly. But don't let that stop the corporate state media from peddling this nonsense. So what's next for these butchers of the First Amendment? Spotify. Spotify announces new hate content and hateful conduct public policy. This music streaming service is very popular around the world, reportedly growing by 20,000 songs a day. But as I'm sure, just like you are, I have been having trouble sleeping at night knowing that some of these songs might be offensive. Well, don't you worry, we can all sleep safe and sound now, because Spotify has teamed up with the SPLC to promote those values through music on our platform. So how does Spotify define hate content on their platform? Content that expressly and principally promotes, advocates, or incites hatred or violence against a group or individual based on characteristics including race, religion, gender identity, sex, ethnicity, nationality, sexual orientation, veteran status, or disability. So I guess you won't be able to find Eminem's first album on there, right? I mean, there's some pretty graphic stuff on there, and now that it's 2018, hey, if we're going to retroactively judge historical figures based on leftist values in 2018, why not judge Eminem by the album that he released 19 years ago? Of course, Spotify already addresses this. It's important to remember that cultural standards and sensitivities vary widely. There will always be content that is acceptable in some circumstances, but is offensive in others, and we will always look at the entire context. So in other words, we'll just pick and choose which songs we like. And so who's going to help them with this task? To help us identify hate content, we have partnered with rights advocacy groups including the Southern Poverty Law Center, the Anti-Defamation League, Color of Change, Showing Up for Racial Justice, GLAAD, Muslim Advocates, and the International Network Against Cyber Hate. Forget the SPLC for a second. There's not a single group on here that can be even considered remotely moderate. They're all far extreme leftists. Even the supposedly moderate Anti-Defamation League has its troubled history. Aside from teaming up with YouTube to censor controversial content, the ADL has been at this censorship game for decades. Back in the 1980s, they attempted to silence Frank Zappa for writing a song talking about stereotypical Jewish women. Oh, if only that conservative anti-PC musician was alive today. When attacked by the ADL, Frank Zappa didn't pull back or apologize. He doubled down. The songs I write about women are not gratuitous attacks on them, but statements of fact. The song Jewish Princess caused the Anti-Defamation League of the B'nai B'rith to complain bitterly and demand an apology. I did not apologize then and refuse to do so now because, unlike the unicorn, such creatures do exist and deserve to be commemorated with their own special opus.
The ADL, or Anti-Defamation League, came down on you, I believe.
I was their meat for one season, yeah. Let me put it to you succinctly. I think that any ethnic group that maintains a public relations agency like the ADL, whose job it is to manufacture a uniform image of the whole ethnic group, I mean, that's crazy. You can't expect that people are going to buy that. You can't just swave over the image of the whole ethnic group.
Oh, how far we've fallen. Spotify is also thinking long and hard about how to handle content that is not hate content itself, but made by artists that they consider to have demonstrated hateful conduct personally. You mean like Kanye's support for Trump? He has a song called Black Skinhead, which is pretty offensive if you ask me. But unlike Spotify or the SPLC, I actually believe in freedom of speech. What Spotify is trying to do here won't work, and even their attempt to announce what they're going to do hasn't worked. At the end of the day, Spotify is fooling no one here, except for maybe the delusional left with this policy. In fact, they are alienating a large portion of their users, sending them over to their competitors who are not going to censor opinions and artists who a group of leftists have determined is promoting hate content. In fact, Spotify caps how many songs a premium member can have, so there's plenty of other reasons to use Spotify's competitors. And admittedly, Spotify says this is our first iteration of this new policy, but without significant pushback from their users, the next iteration will be far worse. We're all like frogs here, slowly being boiled to death. The signs are all around us. But the internet has broken the mold of the establishment, fractured culture, and polarized politics to spectrums of opinion that were never heard before. The establishment is scared, my friends, and having Spotify team up with these far-left groups just goes to prove it. Censoring content is the establishment just trying to put the genie back in the bottle. It's your classic, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. We're long past getting ignored. And I've noticed, especially from the left since Trump came to power, that fewer of our opponents are laughing at us now. From the Google memo to Spotify and YouTube teaming up with these far-left groups to implement censorship, it's clear they are now fighting back. There is an ideological war waging in the West, my friends, but I wouldn't concede just yet. Because what comes next? Spoiler alert, we win.